So as coaches have gotten fired, you've started to see some prospects potentially explore the idea of hitting the transfer portal. And we've gone over some names of, hey, if they hit the transfer portal and there was a coach that was fired at the school, maybe Oklahoma should give this kid a look, or maybe they would be interested. But there are a couple of tight end prospects that are now in the portal where I think we could realistically talk about them. One of them even took a visit over the past couple of weeks. So, of course, we got to break it down, discuss it all. Before we do that, though, as always, I want to hear from y'all. So, join the discussion, jump in the comments below, and let me know what your thoughts are. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that like and hit the subscribe button. The tight end room for Oklahoma needs a massive overhaul this season. I think Jaron Kanik has been really great for you in the past game, but you haven't had a ton of success in the blocking game, especially since before Caden Helms came back. You especially didn't have anything. I think Caden Helms is a good piece for you to potentially keep and work around and work off of. Obviously, I think there's some pieces where you just haven't seen them this year yet, like a Trene Washington, a Cade McKintrey, and maybe you ask yourself what's going on with those guys. I think you kind of expect Cade McKintrey at this point to probably hit the portal. Coming out of high school, he was really talented, and this was a guy that I think had a lot of upside, but injuries have kind of kept him sidelined. But it's interesting that the staff has kept him around for as long as they have. But then you look at guys like, Will Huggin, he's going to be aging out of the program. Carson Kent and John Locke, they're definitely just not what I think Oklahoma has expected or wanted them to be. So you would imagine, hey, like those three guys probably going to be portal bound. You keep Caden Helms, you keep Trene Washington, but you need to get at least two more good bodies that can play for you next year, along with Ryder Mix and Ruxer, who are some of the guys that you're bringing in at tight end out of this current recruiting class. And Oklahoma hosted a guy by the name of Josh Ford. We kind of talked about him a little bit, from Oklahoma State. He's actually from Stillwater, Oklahoma, but he's 6'6", 265 pounds, sophomore this year, multiple years of eligibility left if Oklahoma wanted to be able to use that. I don't know if he still has his red shirt available or not, but in 24, 10 receptions for 92 yards, one touchdown. This past season, only 3 receptions for 45 yards and one touchdown. But this is a guy that I think could be used in the blocking game for Oklahoma. He could be a good blocker. And so Josh Ford took a visit to Oklahoma, had a really good visit. It sounds like things went really well, maybe in a positive direction. This is a guy that, if you're an Oklahoma fan, I could 100% see ending up with Oklahoma next year. But it sounds like maybe the process is going to be a little bit slower. Maybe take a couple more looks around the country, see who else might be interested. But Josh Ford, obviously a name to know, and a local name, right? Although he's up at Stillwater, it's somebody from the state of Oklahoma. So it's somebody local here, just, 40 miles down the road to go to Norman. Now, another guy that actually just hit the portal today, this would feel like a more of a development project for Oklahoma. So maybe not someone that's going to come in and compete and be just a superstar for you, but a guy that came out of the 2023 class. He was a 4-star prospect at like 6'6". I think he's at like 220 or 225 now. Josh, and I believe it's Schlafer, out of Reading, Pennsylvania, entered the transfer portal from Penn State. So this was a loss due to James Franklin being fired. Maybe he was going to hit the portal anyways because he really wasn't seeing a whole lot of time on the field. I really like his size. I really like his frame. So again, like a sophomore with multiple years of eligibility. When I saw him at the portal, I said, I'm interested to see if Oklahoma would go after him, because this is a prospect that I think, maybe you could bring in as your project, especially if Cade McKintrey ends up leaving, and use him as kind of like a really high upside guy, especially since he's got the frame and the capabilities to play this position. Going to potentially be more of a blocking tight end, but can be a threat in the pass game because of his frame. So interesting name that hit the portal today that, hey, like maybe if you're an Oklahoma fan, maybe you pay attention a little bit more to this one. And then additionally, just kind of looking at some of the guys that have hit the portal, there's a senior that's got 1 year of eligibility left that's coming out of Arizona. He's 248 pounds, but that's Kean Burnett. He, at Arizona, 18 receptions, 217 yards, and 1 touchdown in 2024. This past season, 2 receptions for 11 yards. In his entire career, just hasn't been the most productive guy. But if you're looking for somebody that maybe can be a threat for you in the pass game, he's been able to shown to have done that before. So Kean Burnett is somebody that, hey, maybe you should pay attention to him. He's from Ladera Branch, California. So maybe like a school like USC or UCLA might be interested in bringing him home. So that's always got to be in the back of your mind. But again, the tight end room definitely needs some work. And I've heard of some names. Can't drop them yet, but I've heard of some names that could potentially enter the portal this offseason that would be massive for Oklahoma. And you might be saying, well, why would they come to Oklahoma? There are ties to Oklahoma for some of these kids. Maybe you can start putting two and two together. There are ties for some of these kids to Oklahoma. So if they actually hit the portal, I would expect for Oklahoma to 100% be interested. Oklahoma would probably be in a driver's seat for at least one of them. So we'll kind of have to see how everything plays out there. But kind of looking at portal needs for Oklahoma. And I know it's really early to be talking about it, but I think it's important, especially with how many coaches you're seeing get fired around the college football landscape. If you're like, hey, I want to be brought up to speed with what's going on, well, we're in a bye week. So this is the perfect opportunity to talk about it. And obviously, with the Bear being a bye week, we're going to be pushing out a lot of content. So you're going to want to make sure you're subscribed here to the channel. But looking at other prospects that Oklahoma could take in the transfer portal, I am under the impression you probably need 2 offensive tackles. The reason being is you got Sexton, you've got Jake Taylor. I fully expect both of those guys to probably transfer out of the program. They just haven't been healthy. And what I kind of see there is I look at what Oklahoma did last year with wide receivers and kind of think maybe they do something similar with offensive line this year. They look at some of the guys that can't stay on the field and can't stay healthy, maybe process them out a little bit, which definitely happens in today's college football. So, kind of looking at that a little bit. So I was thinking 2 offensive tackles, maybe a guard, and these probably aren't going to be starters for you, but just depth pieces that can rotate, which is important. Like we've seen that this year. It's important to have that, and just Oklahoma doesn't have it right now. I think you need 1 nose tackle to replace Dominic Williams, or just maybe an interior defensive lineman to replace Grayson Halton, right? You just need somebody like that, a big body, somebody maybe with a couple years of eligibility, but that is tenured, or maybe if you want to bring in a senior that, the joke's always there, but if David Hicks hits the portal, why would Oklahoma not take him at this point? Again, it's a long shot, but I definitely think defensive tackle somewhere you'd want to probably take somebody. Cornerback's intriguing to me because I do feel like it's an area for improvement, but I feel like you really like what you have in that room. Same thing for safety. Not sure if you really need to bring a linebacker in unless you get somebody that's kind of like all-American that hits the portal. Like, let's say Clemson fires Dabo Sweeney and Sammy Brown hits the portal. Oklahoma should go grab it, right? No questions asked. Or, same thing for, the Woodaz, right? If he hits the portal, I would go out there and get him. Probably not going to happen, but if it does, and Clemson's roster would be a lot of fun for Oklahoma to go out there and take some guys off of. Oklahoma's got a lot of prospects out there, like a Bryant Westcoat wide receiver, which wide receiver is one of those positions where you're going to lose Keontae Lewis, you're going to lose Keontae Lewis because of aging out. You're going to lose Deion Burks because he's going to go to the NFL draft and age out. Does Isaiah Satania, does his draft stock increase enough for him to hit the NFL draft? That's a possibility. Obviously, I think there's a couple guys in that room that just don't see the field anymore that could probably be processed out. And so I think, you probably want to go through and take 1 or 2 really solid wide receivers that can be impact players for you next year. And then, looking at, the running back and quarterback position, definitely I don't think if John Batir returns, you need to take another quarterback. Running back position's intriguing because, you're going to have Javonte Barnes potentially be back, but it does sound like, maybe he's going to portal out. Maybe he's saving that red shirt a little bit. Although nothing's been confirmed, that's just what the optics look like. Jaden Ott's obviously aiming to be out of the program. I think a lot of people are just waiting for that to happen. Taylor Tatum's an interesting one. You hear a lot of things about him potentially circulating with the portal. It would be interesting if maybe he just decided to make a move to baseball, or maybe he does want to stick with baseball and football and can somehow make it work. I still think Oklahoma needs to go out there and take 1 running back out of the portal. I've heard a couple names, specifically one down for the kid down there at UNT. We were talking about with him with some of the guys the other day. That would be an intriguing prospect. don't know if it makes sense for him to come up to Oklahoma and be, the second or third back, because that's what I think he would be here. So running back's somebody where I think you could take somebody. But other than that, that's kind of what it's going to look like this offseason. But tight end being the biggest one. I think tight end is definitely the biggest one. It's going to be the biggest overhaul. Probably going to be the most losses in the portal. And I think Oklahoma's got a couple good prospects to go out there and target now. So I want to hear from y'all. Join the discussion. Jump in the comments below and let me know what your thoughts are. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that like and you hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you all next time.